Good morning. Just adjust here. Morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to TRADEPRO Academy's YouTube channel and morning market update. Today it is March 7th, 2023, and we've got some fairly big events. Yesterday we had some decent movement in the market overall. Nice little bid that rebid some of those key areas and popped up into those poor highs at that 40-80 region before we got a larger sell-off. So those are areas that we were talking about in our live Discord that we shared with you guys. We're going to continue this. Today is day 2 of that Discord. So go check that out at community.tradeproacademy.com. After this, I'm going to be going live there in voice and chatting about what some of the expectations and market movement and potential trades are for the day that's set up. So let me just see here. Today, the main thing that we have going for us is Jerome Powell. He's going to be taking center stage yet again at the semi-annual testimony in front of Capitol Hill. So this is a monetary policy report testimony before the Senate Banking Committee later in the day, which is going to be in about an hour's time. Ideally, he comes in on time. That give us clues for the central bank's future rate path amid a wave of strong economic data. So Powell will deliver the same testimony before the House Financial Services Committee on Wednesday. And the chief's appearance at Capitol Hill follow the release of the central bank's monetary policy report. While the Fed eased its aggressive rate hiking campaign, and based on recent data, that could mean a return to a bigger rate hike to rein in stubbornly high inflation. So we've had a lot of decent data that's been coming out, and this could be an excuse for Jerome Powell to take yet another more hawkish stance, which would include more rate hikes or maybe a more aggressive rate hikes to end up the year, putting us above that 5% terminal rate expected. So this initially would probably put some downside pressure in the market, but as things have been going, I don't really rule out a rebid if any downside does come. But one thing's for sure, it's probably going to be pretty slow until Powell comes on, and all eyes are going to be on Powell. So in the March 2021 to 2022 meeting that's coming up in about 2 weeks' time, something like that, markets are largely expecting a 25 basis point hike. And during this meeting, according to CME Fed Watch tool, right? It's high probability, higher for longer interest rates are also expected. Meanwhile, San Francisco's Fed President Mary Daly said that disinflation is far from concern in terms of what's going on. The Fed is technically not done tightening. All eyes are going to be on whether Jerome Powell used the opportunity to strike a more hawkish tone. This is pretty much what everyone's looking at this point. And if we move to a higher percent chance of a 50 basis point hike coming up in the following meeting, and maybe even meetings to come, you're going to see a little more downside press into this market. But I don't necessarily think that downside sustains too much. There's probably going to be a decent rebid even at the end of the day. In other news, we also have Meta layoffs, right? They're set to cut thousands of more jobs as soon as this week, despite Zuckerberg holiday season assurance that he wasn't expecting to push more layoffs. And the latest round of job cuts follows the social media giant's last move from last year of about 11,000 workers, which is about 13% of its workforce. And the new job cuts are also tied to financial targets and are separate from Meta's plans to flatten its company structure to create less distance between Zuckerberg and interns. So the change in structure is expected to result in thousands of jobs cuts, and we're probably going to see that trickle into other tech names. So in terms of news today, we have Jerome Powell, we have wholesale inventories, we have some other stuff that's very not important in comparison to what's going on with Powell. So that's going to be the main point of interest today that we're going to be covering in the live room, community.tradeproacademy.com. So come check that out. Realistically, I think that Powell does take a little more hawkish of a stance when we see some of this downside come out and potentially rebid. I'm going to be watching that 40-23 area. So if you want to know more about the targets, the day, the trade setups, all that stuff, come check us out at community.tradeproacademy.com. Shorter update today, but this is what we're going to be doing until the end of the week. Yesterday was pretty solid, but I think in the following days, we're going to get a lot more opportunity for those trades. So come and see how we read the DOM, base trades on correlations, right? All that stuff that I talk about in terms of futures and options as well. So I'll see you guys there, and thank you for this. Thank you for joining me for the shorter update, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. See what happens with Powell, and we'll update you guys in tomorrow's morning session.